Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank
Welcome.
you. I'm glad to be here. Sharon, hey, Miss Honey, what's going on? I'm excited.
Going on?
What's going on? I'm nervous because I don't know what y'all are gonna throw at me, so I'm just gonna, got
You're
my
a pro.
water.
You're a pro.
I'm gonna try today. We're gonna see how much of a pro I am.
Don't worry, you got this. You got this. So before we even, kick it off, we like to start off with at least one or two icebreakers. So the first one I'm going to throw at you here is that if you were to leave the music, the film, leave all of that behind and start something afresh today, what would that one thing be?
I would be an attorney.
Ah, interesting. Tell us why.
I've always been fascinated with law, and I remember, and I think it was kindergarten or first grade. And they used to have a section where they asked the kindergarten, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Everybody's like a firefighter, a police officer. I was like, I want to be a judge. And so in order but I love law, criminal law, of course, entertainment law, but I would be an attorney, be a lawyer. Yep.
Awesome. Nice. That's good to know. So now the next one for you here is, Eminem, Jay-Z, or Nas. Who would you bet on to do a gospel album next?
I would go with Nas. I think Nas. Jay. I know the Carters very well, and I know he has beliefs. And Eminem, I have a connection to each one of them. So I co-wrote a song that Eminem did years ago with Royce the 5'9", and Bruno Mars sung the hook, who's an old friend, his song called Lighters. So I love him, but I don't see that happening. Jay is just in a different mode now. He's doing kind of select features, but really just on his entrepreneurship, like. We see a different headline and news briefing every day. But Nas, just because I saw he did something on my brother Salam Remy's album that came out like maybe a couple months back, and it was they flipped Going Up Yonder, Nas and Jennifer Hudson. So I could see Nas just kind of, and then I know there was another inspirational moment that we were talking with Nas about that didn't quite pan out because of a personal matter. But I think Nas, my vote would be with Nas.
Okay, well, listen, man, you were able to get Snoop, so I don't see that being a problem for you. So you heard it here first.
Yeah, I love
anything is possible.
Anything is possible, and I got a few more surprises that I'm sure will be headlines here shortly. So yeah.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's exciting.
We can't wait. So now you're no newbie to the industry, right? Almost 2 decades plus. With various aspects from, music, artist development, television. So out of all those various facets, which one would you say you prefer the most? Or which one, you would rather do more on a day-to-day, if possible?
Oh, do you pick which one of your children is your favorite child? You just can't do that, Sharon.
You know why?
Although I know better, but that is
okay. I'll give you that.
But I love them all. Like they all, speak to different sides of my creativity. But I love music. Even when you look at a lot of the TV and film that I've created and executive produced, a lot of it is music derived and music inspired. So if I had to choose my favorite, it would be music because I have such a connection to music and have since I was in my mother's womb. She told me like I would just, my mother used to hang out and party when she was pregnant with me. So music was always around, and that was something that continues to stick with me. All forms of music, all genres. I listen to everything from country to gospel to CCM to classical, which is what you see on my wall right here. Yes, so it's I love music, but I love television and film. I love it. And it's hard, but yeah, music if I had to pick.
Got it. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
So Black History Month just ended and it's time for the ladies, right? So, and I know that your team put together some wonderful tributes for Black History Month. Is there anything up the sleeve for Women's History Month?
Great question.
It's coming.
So you heard it here first. We celebrate our amazing women on the roster and ladies 365, 24/7, but we're doing something extra special for the month of March to commemorate Women's History Month. So we're putting out new music from Koryn Hawthorne. She's got a remix with Queen Naija of Speak to Me. So that's about to drop. We've got a new single from the singer H.E.R. and Tauren Wells, who's on our roster. They have a song called "Hold Us Together," which is coming out shortly. And then also the week after that, we've got Kierra Sheard's got a deluxe edition for her Grammy-nominated album that's going to, release alongside her new book, Big, Bold, and Beautiful. So we're releasing that. And then the last Friday of the month, we're going to have Doe, who's our newest signee by way of our partnership with Jonathan McReynolds, has 2 remixes coming out. One is an acoustic version of her song Good Now, but then she has another version of Good Now, which features Wande, which is a female rapper who is phenomenal, signed to Lecrae's Reach Records label. So we've got releases every single week of the month, and the part of the profits from those singles, download streams, etc., will go to 2 nonprofits benefiting young women in education and the arts.
Wow!
Oh my God!
So that's what's up my sleeve, Miss Honey. That's what's up my sleeve. You know what I mean?
He just
we
dropped the
got
mic
you at first, but you just killed that.
He just kept going. I'm like, wait, there's more, but there's more.
And there's more. And then the end of the month on the 30th, let's just say we're working on a very big release with someone who's a mogul, a billionaire, has her own network. So that'll conclude the Women's History Month promotion that we're doing. So more details to follow there.
Well, there you go. Wow.
Yes. Ladies, you heard it. I rep for us. He came through for us. Like, what more can I say?
Yeah,
I'm with it. So, jeez, I don't even know where to go.
So we got a few things planned, because to me, when you think about just the contribution of women and history and music, none of us would be here without a woman. It's my honor and just to celebrate. And so my thing is 365, 24/7, yes, but I wanted to do something extra special for this month. And so we as a company-wide, Sony has a number of initiatives that they're doing, but specific to RCA Inspiration, that's some of our plans.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. So let's talk a little more about RCA Inspiration. We know that, you just went through a long list of phenomenal men and women that are on the label.
Yes.
But do you have any interest in taking on indie artists? And if so, what is your selection process overall when you take on a new artist?
It is, it varies. The selection process, I don't have a necessarily a one set way that we go about it, because some labels, some of my peers are all about the metrics and social media and how many followers do they have. And I'm still a little bit of the belief of, are they talented? Is this what they're called to do? Are they being truly their authentic selves? So I look for authenticity first and foremost. That's one thing I look for. I look for that and talent. They go hand in hand for me. And because someone can have a bunch of followers on social media, but may not just be talented. And for gospel, in gospel and Christian music, there should be a calling. There should be a certain standard that we want to just make sure that we're representing, the body of Christ. And again, I get it. I work for a record label, for-profit entity. They're here to make money, but I want to make sure that the people that we are applying our resources behind are really representing God in the best and most favorable light. So I look for just those people that really, really have a heart for God, but also want to respect the rules of the music business, because this is a business. So, because if they don't, then it's okay. I always tell artists, it's okay to be the worship leader at your church. That can be an amazing life and career. You're still honoring your calling night, but entering into the music business, it comes with interviews and photo shoots and touring. And if you're not willing to fully commit, then this probably is not the best, choice career-wise for you. So I always look for, do they have some type of a team? Like, what does the team look like? Do you have a manager? Do you have an attorney? Do you have an agent? Are you actively doing shows? And so again, pre-COVID, but like looking at just how active, how invested are you into your, because no one's going to invest into you like you will. So it starts with you. True. So that's just something I look at, and just to see the level of investment. And that doesn't always mean monetary. I'm just saying as far as time, what have they done? What have they invested into themselves? So, yeah.
That's amazing what you said, right? Because in the traditional A&R days, right? Someone sends in a demo, you know, you send out a team to scout all the local underground shows, you know, they come back, they give you a list of names and you go follow on. So, you know, none of that is happening, Sam. You know, it's always interesting to see how are the labels picking, how are they doing that. And even in the beginning, when you were talking about what you mentioned, you know, with the collaboration with Reach Records and then the collaboration with you know, with Jonathan McReynolds' label as well. I'm seeing a lot of that too, right? So it's not necessarily direct signing, but a lot of collaboration with other smaller labels or other labels to that extent. So, you know, do you see shift heading in that direction?
Absolutely. I mean, a big thing about me, before I was in the record label side, I was at E1 prior to being at RCA Inspiration, but I'm an entrepreneur. And so I really want to see other entrepreneurs, and let me be more specific, Black entrepreneurship happening within our music and entertainment industry. I believe that it's long overdue. And if I can be a conduit to make that a reality, I'm going to continue. So we have a number of partnerships, like I mentioned, Jonathan McReynolds with his Life Room label, Kierra Sheard and her brother J. Drew Sheard with Karoo Entertainment, Kirk Franklin with his For Your Soul. I mean, so I pride myself. I mean, Pharrell, we just partnered with Pharrell for his choir through his I Am Mother. So I thrive on partnerships. Just Marquise Boone with Kalante Gavin, who we just signed. So again, you see a lot of Black entrepreneurs that are strategically partnering with us. And we have structures that allow for all of us to make money, but also more importantly, spread the word of God and have a true impact. So yeah, partnering with these labels. I mean, Hezekiah Walker had his Heads House label that we're partnering with. So just the list goes on, but I just love to partner with entities and allow them the autonomy, ownership, but also provide them the ample resources like marketing, promotion, publicity, digital support, just so we can really help amplify what they already have. But that's super near and dear to my heart.
Wow. And you've guided the careers of some of the greats. So Kenny Lattimore, Faith Evans, Mark Wiles, and you have also guided some of the careers of the great gospel or traditional Christian artists' careers, right? We talked about Kirk Franklin, we talked about Koryn Hawthorne. What have you seen as one of the biggest challenges and maybe even biggest differences between guiding the career of a quote unquote secular artist versus a traditional gospel artist?
It still requires a lot of work on both scenarios. I will say that it is definitely a little bit of a harder sell sometimes for the national television slots for gospel artists, with some exceptions. But that's probably one of the biggest differences. Even the touring structure that exists in gospel, it's not of that of our mainstream peers. Doesn't make it bad, but gospel artists are a lot of times hitting churches and haven't necessarily built a true non-traditional ticketing or touring history. So they're not doing a lot of the, non-traditional venues or arenas, theaters, small clubs for that matter. So that's something that is a huge difference. The brand opportunities are sometimes different because some brands are a little hesitant to align themselves with anything that screams Christian because of some, especially in recent years. So there's a few differences, but I will say gospel, because it's still culturally a part of who we are as Black people, and being the first genre of music that inspired the blues, inspired jazz, and then came R&B and rock and roll and country, and then now obviously hip hop. But it started with gospel, started with hymns, spirituals. So it's something that's in our DNA as people, that we just have an affinity for gospel music, and myself included. And I don't think that's going to change. But yeah, I think it's definitely different working with the artists as far as just the way the business and the economics, how it comes together. But it's a lot of work in both scenarios.
Right. And I recently heard an interview. I think you were on Rashawn's show. I think he was, what's the name of the show, Sherwin? I think it was
Money Making.
Last February, I think it was.
Yeah. And you were talking about the demographic, right? The audience, the reach for gospel music. And you were saying that 30 plus African American women 30 plus is the general audience for gospel music. So who is the audience for African American males? So which artists do African American males kind of gravitate to?
That's a great question. You know, when we look at the research and the data, it really varies because it's, I've noticed it's tough because a lot of them, like as far as when we look at the breakdown, it is heavily female, sometimes 70-30 with the ratio. So, and just the research that we've seen, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think of like, even because it's not like I would say Leandria kind of skews a little bit more in the middle as far as like you might see more male activity there. Kirk is definitely more female. I mean, yeah, way more skewed. Koryn, I've noticed is a lot, probably more 60-40, 60 being female, but yeah, it's still largely, a genre that we target, our female audience, and we're proud. But yeah, just as far as the research that we've seen, I don't have a lot that really it's male dominated, unless you switch gears to like my Christian hip hop side, which I have an artist KB who we partner with, and that's mostly male dominated. So yeah.
So pretty much we spending our money.
Yes, absolutely. Money and time. Money and
time. Okay, that's interesting statistics to look at. So the fellas, the fellas got to represent. The fellas got to step it up, man. There we go, more streams.
But it's just like I said. It's just when I think about just the trailblazer, women always lead the path. They lead the way. Yeah. So the guys, I feel like will catch up and will follow. The women are the head of the household. So you married, single, whatever status, you still are in charge of the household and a lot of the key decisions that are being made. So that's just the reality of things. So the guys will fall in line and they'll catch up. But I'm honored to continue to cater to our female audience because they're loyal. And when they with you, they with you. And it's that's why we continue to just give music to hopefully inspire and give everyone hope. But but I'm just looking at the data that we have. It's definitely largely female, skewed, which is great.
So from just thinking, from being at a big label, right? So from a social responsibility perspective, right? Do you feel as though big labels should do a bit more for independent artists, whether by way of training, some kind of, indie outreach, information sharing? Because while, as an independent artist, some, on the higher end might have a team, some might, but in order to kind of bridge that gap from saying, hey, if at some point we want to be able to pull from that pool, we don't want them to be so far behind, right? We want to still give them enough along the way so that if we can pull from that pool, we know that it's not a whole lot more work we have to do to get them up to speed. What's your take on that?
It's tough because, as you know, the independent market is growing rapidly. And any given week, when I look at the radio chart as an example, the independents account for roughly about 40% of that chart in the top 30. And that's pretty significant when you think about years ago. The consumption chart, the streaming and download activity is a little different. But I would encourage the independents to really align with a distributor, and maybe that's like we have the Orchard, which is our distribution arm at Sony, and companies like the Orchard will help you absolutely with some of the back house operational needs that most independents may not know, and how to properly enter the metadata, and just some of those things that just can help making sure that you have all the writer splits and licenses that you need for the respective single and or album release. And so I encourage the independents to get affiliated with the Orchard. You've got your E1s, you got Caroline, which is now Virgin Label Services. You've got Cobalt, Empire. There's a number of options for distribution only and with some label services, but I would just encourage them to get into one of those systems, preferably the Orchard, because that's Sony, and really learn the business that way and have that kind of helping hand to guide you. Because a lot of times, like, for example, there's someone at the Orchard, and I've sent, a number of people to the Orchard, i.e. Tamala Man, Warren Campbell and Erica Campbell with the My Block Ventures. So Jacqueline Carr, I've sent this. So again, it's not, sometimes some people really have the infrastructure to support an independent model. Then some people are better served aligning with a major and having a strategic partnership, because it is really a lot of work and it takes a lot of human support to really carry it out. I mean, I had a meeting with Travis Green earlier this week, and he presented some of his new music and the staff, and he was just blown away. I mean, it was like 30 people in the virtual meeting. I had lunch catered for everybody via DoorDashes and Uber Eats sent to everyone so they could order lunch. And we had lunch with Travis, and they previewed the music beforehand. And just, it was a great time. But the reality was, even he was shocked at how many people, and that was just a fraction of the team. That wasn't even the entire team. So it takes bodies. But again, the value that labels, majors bring, it's that relational equity. And that's what I always tell the independents. Can you go call radio station X on your own? Yeah, you probably could. Can you call Apple though? Can you call Spotify and Amazon? Because that's the world we're living in. Yeah. But if you align yourself, whether it's by way of a distribution relationship with the Orchard entity like the Orchard, or have a strategic partnership with the major, it affords you the opportunity to be a part of conversations that you may not be privy to on your own. And that's just the economics of how even the partnerships are paid out because of the deals that are structured with a lot of the majors and the DSPs, be it YouTube, Apple, whomever. Like, people think, well, I'm gonna do it myself and I'll get more money. That's not really accurate. So I tell people, because the payout structure with majors is completely different from that of independent. So it really, and I've just had this conversation with a friend of mine who has an independent label who's doing great things, but I said, you really are missing out on a lot of money and opportunity because you're trying to do it all yourself instead of partnering with another entity, and you will still come out more profitable in the end. So sometimes hard for people to believe, but it's the truth.
No, I think one thing you said right there was a key takeaway, because even recently I was talking with someone that was looking, for partnership. They weren't quite all the way there, but at the same time, where they kind of settled with is that they went with a distribution deal, like you mentioned. I think they went with might have been Indie Blue. They went with a distribution deal, and that was kind of like, hey, taking it to the next level, to the next step in terms of their reach and their influence and what they're doing. So I think that makes perfect sense. And I guess also too, from a giving back perspective, because I've been enjoying those Sunday brunches. You guys have been having Clubhouse blowing up. I mean, those conversations have been amazing. So I guess with platforms such as those as well, the independent artists can come in, ask questions, kind of get that access that they normally wouldn't get by sending an email, because all the different layers in place, again, to shield your time and as well too, right? Because you don't have time to respond to every inbox and so forth. But
I don't, but that's why the Sunday brunch was something that myself and Steph Wilkinson, Ron Hill, and Walter Thomas, we were all talking one day, and this was when Clubhouse was, when it first launched. And I'm not a big social media person. I really don't like it. It's so time consuming. Like I see the value, but it's just like, I personally, it's just not for me. But when I can make it help and impact others in a positive way, I will go along with it. So Clubhouse is a great example where I said, you know what, we could do something positive, because often we do these panels, different interviews, different opportunities with people. I look at sometimes I'll glance at the DM and look at this hundreds of unread, messages, and people hitting the office, my assistant. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can get everybody in this platform, we can break it up and kind of address different topics and share some information, allow people to ask questions. And for those serious people that want to have a true follow-up, then we can kind of, reach out, like hit me. And I do the same thing. Matthew Knowles, who's a friend of mine, father of both Solange and Beyonce, he holds, he's a professor at a number of universities. So I spoke with, his students at the University of Houston a couple of weeks back. But again, all music business, aspiring music business professionals, and just really trying to encourage them. And I said, well, here's my email. And so out of the class of maybe 40 people, 4 of them followed up, cool. I responded to those 4. And that's, and they really, and it's just like about giving people the access. But really, if you're on a Clubhouse, I'm just not one of the people that want to just brag on my credentials. It's like, no, let's have a real conversation. And Sunday brunch, haven't been focused on the business the last couple of weeks, but I love when we can just kind of educate people on how things work. And I believe one of the upcoming weeks, we're going to talk about how to sell TV, television and film. So that's something that I'm looking to see if I can pull Devon Franklin and Holly Carter and a few other network executives in on. So we're going to see.
Nice.
So has that been the pivot in this post-COVID world? So applications like Clubhouse, and I know you said you were on a Zoom call with Travis Green, 30 people on the call. Has that been the transition post-COVID?
Yes, that has been the transition during this time. And I can't believe we're 1 year in. I mean, we literally went home last March, from the office, because I haven't been back in the office since March of last year. So we've been working remotely. This is my home office here. So it's been, this is our new normal. And I've been saying, and we've been making the best of it. We've still been recording. We've still been shooting music videos safely, of course, and following all of the, procedures. But it is really, we're making the best of it. Like I said, I mean, we used to have a very social environment at the office, and I would take my team out and do different team building exercises and take them to lunch. And so I can't do that, safely. Right. So, but I still want them to feel engaged and connected to the artist. And it's nothing like hearing the artist's heart and vision for their work, for their body of work. And so with Travis, because this next album is so powerful, I told Travis, like, this takes me back to where he was with The Hill. It's such an amazing. Love that. I can't say it enough. It's an amazing, I'm getting chills thinking about it, because I have so many favorites on the album, and the lead single has 2 gospel legends that's going to shock everybody. So it's going to really, really big. I'm really excited for Travis, but I wanted everyone to hear his vision, his heart. Like, what was he thinking when he was writing these songs, and when he produced it, and when he added guitar on this one, and why? So it just, I received so many emails from people that were like, oh my God, this was so incredible. Like, because I invited even people from like our finance department, people from the international teams, just so people really could see it on the infant stages, and just like, really that at inception, like, okay, this is what Travis is really trying to accomplish. And it was, but yeah, so we're doing more and more of those. I had a Zoom earlier with Kierra Sheard, her and her team, and we were talking through some upcoming opportunities for Kierra. And so, but again, that's just how we are. That Zoom or Microsoft Teams or FaceTime. So that's been our reality.
And
I've seen a few people in person. Kirk Franklin is the one person who is kind of, I ain't gonna say he doesn't care about the thing, but he's more so the person that has been in Nashville a lot, and I have seen Kirk in person. Everyone else has been pretty much virtual. I'm sorry, Kirk and Leandria. Leandria invited me out right before Christmas to preview some of her new songs she had been recording. So those have been the 2 I've actually seen.
And it sounds like it's not lessening the impact at all of the work, only enhancing it.
Yeah, no, it's really enhancing it. And because, like Doe right now, Doe is actively recording her debut album, which is coming along. So great. But again, she's still in the studio. We're being safe. She was in Chicago, last week with Jonathan McReynolds cutting some more songs. So we're still working, to just recording, and we're not rushing. And I think it's also been a time for the artists have really, really been inspired because of everything happening in our world. So I think now this is like, they have more to say. And so like going back to Travis, he didn't feel rushed. Like, no one was rushing him for the next album. So he was at home, just had time, and he could take his time. And when you hear this new offering, you're going to say, he really took his time and really listened to God. And I told him it's gonna bless so many people. And he's got some amazing guest artists on the project, but he was able to take his time. He wouldn't have been able, because otherwise, if we weren't in a pandemic, he would be out on the road traveling. He's got touring. He's got his church. Right. There'd be so much happening, but he's been able to be still a little bit, and it's really birthed something that I can't wait to hear it. It blows me away. It's incredible.
But even But you see, and that sounds amazing because I'm even excited just thinking
Just to hear about
it.
just to hear that little piece right there.
Yeah.
But you see, on top of that though, is that I think during this time, right, it's also stretching creativity, right? Because things that you normally would have done according to the traditional playbook, now you have to like really sit down and figure out, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna add impact? Even when Kierra did her virtual, her concert
music video.
and all of that was just super amazing. And then Jonathan did, their stuff as well as then the Christmas concert. It's just like you're
The
seeing
Stellars.
everyone is just being stretched and pushed out to really bring out the best in what they're doing. So I think even after all of this, when we were going back to quote unquote whatever normal should look like, a lot of creativity was developed that I think can also stretch forward, because I'm sure a lot of the things you guys have learned now you're not going to just stop doing once everything is open back up, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Sharon. I mean, when I think about just it's forced us to be more creative and more resourceful and more innovative in some ways. So, do we need to be in the office 5 days a week? Probably not.
Yeah.
Do we need to travel to LA to have a series of meetings where we may hop on a Zoom? I mean, so I think it's definitely going to impact the way we handle our business going forward. But I'm excited to have some human contact again in the office communication. So. But it is going to look a little different, and I think it's going to be. I'm thinking more of a hybrid approach, because some positions really don't need to be in the office every single day. There are some that benefit, like our production team and some others, but like A&R, like you're recording the album like in different parts of the world. So do you really need to be in the office every day? The radio team is calling radio. They have company cell phones. They can call and talk. So it's really just revisiting and reimagining what this new structure looks like. So we've been having some internal discussions. Nothing's finalized yet, but it's definitely top of mind.
Wow. So I'm going to drop this quote. Tell me if it sounds familiar.
Okay.
I'm fearless because I know that I've got God on my side. That's why I continue to walk in faith and believe that He's given me the foresight and the vision so that I'm never afraid. Who's that?
Sounds like me. Yes. No, that's
tell us about that.
That is that's how I live my life. I am fearless. I fear no one but God Himself. He has put me here and been more than great. I'd be happy just to be a music executive. I would have just been happy to be a TV producer. Like I could have took one of them and had a certain sense of fulfillment, but to have everything that He's just gifted me with, it blows my mind. So I have no reason to be fearful of anybody. I've been on this journey in the music business since I was 12, defied a lot of the odds, met a lot of great people that even I didn't understand it at that time, but I just think about God is faithful, and I will never, that's why I tell my team, I'm like, I think of these, what I consider crazy ideas, but it's those God moments. Like I wouldn't have thought that I would be able to get the singer H.E.R fresh off the Super Bowl doing something with the vision, putting out an inspirational song.
I can't wait for that.
I would just, it's so sad. Thinking back to E1 when I was able to get, with Michelle Williams, her album, we had the collaboration with my sister Kelly Rowland. My sister is Kelly Rowland and Beyonce Knowles Carter, and it's just like wow, like these are real defining moments. And I think about or working with Kirk Franklin on his podcast, just the ideas that we talk about. But it's like I just look at everything and just how it impacts the people. I see the comments and people like they were contemplating suicide, but I heard this H.E.R song and something has to break. And so, but it goes back to me just saying, you know what? And trusting God and trusting the people that He puts around me, the team, because I couldn't do it without them.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I have no fear. I really don't. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. That is real. I feel like we have the best artist roster talent-wise, but also character-wise and just people that I don't mind speaking to after hours. Like Kirk might FaceTime me now, or Kierra, like it's a real relationship. Leandria might call me early in the morning because she got, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's people that I really, 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 really love working with. And it's our tribe. I always say, we're your tribe, we family. Like that's real. But I just go back to God, like you put me around some amazing people at the right time, because it could have been different. And I'm not naive or oblivious, and it absolutely could have been different. So why fear? If he's got my back, why am I who I'm worried about? For real. It's gonna be some good days, gonna be some not so good days, but it's like, nah, but in the end, God is still God. So
that's right.
So go ahead, Chanel. You're going to say something?
No, I was just going to ask, how do you plan to? Because people need to hear how you got to this point. They need to hear, some of the up days, some of the down days you talked about. Is there a plan? That's the better question. Is there a plan to bottle your experiences? So is it maybe in a book, through your podcast? Is there a plan to kind of share your journey? Or is something of that nature already out? Because I just feel like people need to know how Phil Thornton became Phil Thornton.
Miss Honey, you must you've been listening to some of my phone calls recently, so that's what
we're not going to sit. We're not going to sit. We have not hacked any emails. We have not done that.
He's been downloading to me. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I will say, because I read a lot. And I was really torn with the idea, but Willie Moore Jr., who's a dear friend of mine and a brother, he hit me just out the blue and was like, man, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. Like, it could be this. And he was walking through. And so then Devon Franklin and I talked about it as well. Devon's like, Phil, you got it. I'm like, well, you do have books too. So maybe, so I just, all in all, I want to do both. I want to write a book that shares my journey, but also gives others steps and tools to survive in the entertainment industry. But I also want to do a documenting my journey. And I've said I was going to start to kind of get footage on some of my friends, my parents, my family, just people who know me and have known me since, like the woman who gave me my first internship. She's amazing, Candy Eastman. She's on the radio in Houston, Texas, at a station called Magic 102.1. It's an urban AC station, but she's the one who gave me my first internship at 12 years old. I want to interview Candy to say, what were you thinking? What would you give this 12-year-old? But seriously, but I just think, but I want to share that story both in a book, but also have a documentary. And when I look at, such greats like Clarence Avon and Quincy Jones, again, I got way more years to put in before I can even think about scratching the surface of what they've contributed. But I have a story to tell, and it's a story that I'm ready to share. And I'm just now in the early stages, and I want to give some of my friends and people that I've collaborated with along the way, because I didn't really honestly think about everything that I've been a part of. And sometimes, which is why I struggle even with, I shared with you all before we went live, the wall I'm facing now is full of awards. And I didn't even have them up for the long time. They were in boxes. And I was so like, I don't want to be that person, but I've learned it's okay. I'm not worshiping the awards. They're not my idol, but it's okay to acknowledge when you've accomplished some things and to celebrate your wins. Because I tell my team about that all the time. So that's how I'm looking at the book, and that's how I'm looking at the documentary, just to share a bit of my journey and hopefully inspire the next individual that's coming from humble beginnings, because I come from, single parent household, and my mom worked 3 jobs, and I had no relatives that worked in the music industry, but I was blessed and fortunate enough to meet some amazing mentors of people that saw something in me, both executives, artists, and it's just been a blessing. And so I want to tell how I discovered gospel music was at that the radio station I interned in at 12 under Candy. They were the very first station in the country to play Kirk Franklin's While We Sing on the R&B and hip hop station.
Oh, wow.
So I look at that full circle moment like, oh my God, like I'm working with Kirk now. But then fast forward to my third internship. I was at 15, my third internship at Arista Records. And I remember being out with this young group at the time called 112. And 112 had a lot of R&B hits, but they loved gospel. So I remember just we were in a 15-passenger minivan riding from DC to Philly. And they were just listening to all this gospel music. And I said, man, what is this? They're like, man, you don't know Commission, you don't know Minivision, Ministandard, and just some of the greats. And so I was like, nah, I mean, I know Kirk Franklin. They were like, oh man, that's all you know. And so
I'm like, everybody knows Kirk Franklin.
Yeah, they were like, that's all you know. So but 112, I always credit 112, Faith Evans, and Carl Thomas as people that really educated me on gospel music. Faith would always school me on all things. The Clark sisters, Vanessa Bell, Armstrong. Like, it was Faith was like, yo, this is who I study. This is the greatness. 112 was like, I told you, Commission, Winans, Daryl Coley. Like, they were just like playing it back to back. Yo, this lick right here, this drum here, that's what we did on this record. Like, I was like, man, these gospel artists, yo, they dope. Like, this is like a whole nother. I knew of gospel, like I knew of Shirley Caesar kind of growing up, but my grandmother listened more to like Christian music, like CCM and country. And she was a Black woman from Chattanooga, Tennessee, but that's what she listened to. So I was more familiar with the CCM side, but I credit those people for just schooling me, educating me. You know what I mean? Like, just really just showing me the ropes. But it's like, so even now, fast forward, like I always just, anytime I get the chick, because it's like, it was the R&B people that showed me, this gospel music. And shout out to my sisters, Destiny's Child, knowing them since 2 decades. Like they've always been like, that was their vibe. Like, BK and Michelle, they listening to gospel. That's what they listening to, like straight up. So that's why I'm talking to them about, yo, let's do the Stellars some years back. It was a no-brainer. They're like, yeah, we'd be honest. Absolutely. Like, that's who inspired us. That's what we listen to still to this day. And just to be a part of that, but I want to share that story. I want to share it and share the TV journey. I want to share some of the mainstream highlights. I want to share it all because I want to share the story so people can do it too. I'm not, this is, God really put me in this position just to say, to be that, okay, it's not, because it's not about me, but it's like, how can I help others? And I even with my team, I always try to show them like, yo, this is how we can get to this point. So we may be starting here, but this is how we can grow and get to this end goal. So, but yeah, documentary and book on the way, Miss Honey. We're on the way.
I can't wait. Wow. I can't wait. So I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, but you're a Black man. You're a young Black man. You already talked about the, you said, you had odds against you. And that's just two right there. Statistically, where you could be, you've beaten so many odds already. So that story would just do so much for the culture, so much for our people, so much for so many people who have visions and who have dreams that want to accomplish something similar. And I just can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I can't wait to tell it because even like I said, my mom, she's such a superhero, working 3 jobs, putting me through private school and providing. And I think about, and I've reconciled with my dad and even just that journey of just now, my dad has absolutely been in my life, for some years now, but even how to reconcile. And, I go to therapy because I'm a very big advocate for therapy. But again, just how to process those feelings, those emotions, because that is, not having your dad for some of those formative years, it could have went a lot differently, to your point, Miss Honey. Like, I didn't live in always the best neighborhoods. My mom did the best she could. And again, just so I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful now that she's retired and enjoying life and traveling the world. And so it's, we're not in COVID, but pre-COVID, but it's something that it could have went a lot differently. But again, that's how I know, again, God is real because it hasn't been a perfect journey, but he shielded me from a lot of stuff that could have happened. And just looking at some of my friends and others that really didn't overcome some of the obstacles or make it out the neighborhood, it's like, wow, it's pretty inspiring. And I want to share that story.
Well, we can't wait. Exactly. We can't wait for you to share that story. So, before we let you go, I have to ask one question on balance. So you are doing so much between the podcast, the television. I know you have a whole lot in the, as you mentioned, as it relates to, television and things you're working on right now that, we're going to be hearing about eventually and all of that. So how do you stay balance in between all of that? Like, are you getting up at 2 in the morning and not going back to sleep? Touch a little bit on balance. How are you able to do all of this?
Well, people don't like what time I wake up. I get up at around 3:45 each morning, and so I wake up and I'm with my trainer 3 days a week. So I'm downtown at the gym. It's a private gym at 5 a.m. And when I'm not working out with him, I go to the gym that's closer to my house, and I'm there by 4:15, 4:30. So I start my day there because I'm very big on self-care. So I prioritize me, and I schedule me time, throughout the day. Like I'll schedule lunch breaks. I want to make sure don't schedule nothing doing here, or just I need a moment to unplug. So I block out my calendar, and I have a new assistant. She's getting used to my flow, but I definitely, I have, because you have to really balance, and if you're not careful, you can overwhelm yourself, and just like you have to create boundaries. I do my self-care Saturdays where I get my hair cut, and I get a massage. I do it all. Like that's just really just to help recharge and reset me, and just I just do things. I read a lot, but you have to create those boundaries and create and prioritize yourself, because in this industry, it's so easy to get consumed. It's like on the label side, but then I'm starting production on a new series for Owned that I just sold, and so that show is going into a pre-production. Well, it actually started this week, but we're starting filming in 2 weeks, and so the show will premiere later in the year. But that's also, but you know what? I have great partners on both sides. So I have great partners with that series, but at the label, I have a great team that supports me. So I'm able to, delegate, do what I need to do. But in the midst of all of that, I prioritize me. And that's not selfish. Wow. I don't eat, I make sure I'm eating right. I share the journey on Instagram with people, and it's not because I don't cook. So, my thing is like, I always said that I'm not against cooking, but I just always wanted to have someone prepare the food, and I didn't. That did not have to be my wife. So I wanted she working like me. Like, you ain't trying to come home after a full day and try to. So I'm very intentional about having my wonderful chef Cleveland, who's my amazing chef. Prepares the meals and keeps me healthy, and like I said, the trainer. But that's all a part of prioritizing me. I wake up, do my meditation, my prayer every morning. So you have to find those ways to make sure that throughout the week and then throughout the journey that you are keeping you first. And I talk to my peers within the other labels. Ethiopia, have to marry him. Shout out to Ethiopia. Ethiopia just got named the chairman.
Yeah, I saw
CEO,
that.
Motown.
Yeah, Motown. I saw that.
So,
congratulations to her with that. That's my
girl. That's my homie, my sister. So, but she and I always have these conversations about self-care and prioritizing you. So she's done a lot better in recent years as well. So we hold each other accountable. And she started out as a young intern as well. She was 14 when she started at LaFace many years ago. She's a year older than me. So, we have to pour into each other and support each other and check on each other. And that's just something more than ever during this pandemic. I've been prioritizing me, but also checking on my neighbor. So I don't want to take for granted that Miss Honey is doing okay. I check on my staff to be like, yo, how are you? And ain't, oh, how are you? Okay, so I got to talk about this Kierra thing. It's like, no, hey, what's going on? You good? All right, okay, cool. I'm just checking on you. Just checking. And so to do those check-ins, those texts, those calls, it means a lot to people. And I just like that, but that's also about the prioritizing people and the people you care about. Like, my siblings, we do a bi-weekly Zoom, where we sit on the Zoom for like 3 hours. And, I'm nobody to my siblings. They don't care about no executive, they like, you our brother. We don't care about that. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, my older sister, she's a big Lettucey fan. She like, what, you got my Lettucey tickets yet? That's all she want to know. Like, she don't care. But I love them. But again, you have to have that balance.
Yeah.
You have to go out, have dates. You got to go out to the movies. I go hiking sometimes. Like, it's like, I have to find those ways to create that balance and be extremely intentional about that, as if I would any meeting or interview or social media. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very, very intentional about just carving out me time. And I encourage everyone to do the same.
I'm really happy you said that, because, it's important to take that. And even, myself, I'm trying to, be a little bit more conscious about that too, because sometimes even when you're working from home, right, like you can sit in the same spot, and I'm looking at the time like, oh my goodness, it's 12 at night. Like, what else have you, gotten a chance to do or anything like that? So I think it's really key that you said that, because it shows, you're a whole rounded person, right? You're not just, a C level or this person or that person, not just the mogul, right? But you're also a whole person. So, I'm really happy you said that. And also we did reach out to Ethiopia for an interview. So when you do your next check-in, tell her hit us up, because we reached out.
Oh, well, I'll let her know. I spoke to her yesterday just to congratulate her on the new role and everything. So but I'll definitely speak off. I'll put a bug in her ear. I got
well, there you go. There you go.
Listen, for the buzz.
We appreciate you, man. We really appreciate you taking time, coming in, chatting with us, sharing all this. You drop some,
drop the jewels.
You drop some jewels here. So, we got to make sure we don't sit in this edit too long before you go talk to someone else and share all this. So we got to get it out here. But
and just one last thing that I have to say this, the self-care jewel. Now that is crucial, because your girl be doing a lot. Like that touched me personally, because, and also because, and I don't want to, throw the race thing around a lot, but I mean, us Black folk, we do, and we don't take time, we don't prioritize ourselves. We prioritize the work and then ourselves next, because we got to get the work done. We got to get the work done. I'm a principal by day, right? Yeah. Public school in Brooklyn, Brownsville, Brooklyn. So my day is long, right? But I need to do a better job of prioritizing me, right? So what you talked about was just like, you got to do that. This ain't gonna work.
Miss Honey, I'm telling you, you have to, because you don't want to burn out, and you got to take it. You only have one temple, one body, one mind, and you have to take time for you. And I've learned that. And because again, I just know how I was raised. My mom, and worked at the housing authority, was one of her jobs, and my dad worked at the post office. So they come from like, you got to work, you got to put in overtime, you got to get it done. I'm like, yeah, I believe in hard work, but I believe in balance. Mm-hmm. And so even if it's a day out of the week, because I know sometimes in our professions it calls for late night hours, but I set clear boundaries. Like the room I'm in now, this computer that I'm on right now is my Sony computer. I don't bring that to my bedroom. I might bring it to the island. Sometimes I want to work from one of the stools, and if I'm in the kitchen area. But like I try to be intentional about keeping this device here. And yeah, my phone is with me, and I will kind of highlight or flag or VIP certain key people that may email me that requires an immediate response. Other than that, I'll see it tomorrow. Cool. Like it's just really everything is not 911. Everything is not urgent, and I've had to learn that. And that's come with some time, but prioritize, but commit to a day. Commit to a day that you're just gonna love on you. Whatever that love looks like. That's like I said, it might be a massage, might be a manicure, might be getting your hair did, you know what I mean? Whatever, all of the above. You know what I mean? Right. And just you to just, somebody do a bubble bath, whatever you feeling is your vibe.
Whatever.
To decompress and to really just relax. I'd say commit to at least one day a week where you dedicate. And mine is Saturday. But you might find, or it might just be an evening, or you might break it up over a set of evenings, but just be intentional there, because it's your life. It helps manage stress, and it's so many benefits. So
yeah. And usually people will tell you, you got to calendar yourself, calendar your day, but you went straight to self-care. So that was big.
Yes, that's key, man. We're definitely gonna take that and make the necessary adjustment as see fit. So we appreciate you kind of sharing that with us. And like
we can add counselor to the list now, because I just feel like I was just sitting on this couch.
Exactly.
Don't
send us a bill. Don't send us a bill.
I got it. This is free.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Phil, listen, man, again, we thank you so much for coming, for being real, for being authentic. not being scripted, just, you know, just being you, man. We appreciate that. We appreciate everything that you're doing, you know, have done, continue to do. And we can't wait to see you tell that story, man. So, you know, get those footage, get everything, man. And, you know, we can't wait, man. We definitely appreciate you coming through.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate you both. This has been fun.
So I guess
Great talking with you.
lastly, before you go, you know, I know you said you're not as big on social media, but if someone wants to follow you or engage, where would you say is best these days that you're kind of hanging out and engaging these days socially?
I'm working on my website is being developed now, but for now I'm on Instagram, Phillionaire 1911. So like millionaire, billionaire, but just doing the PH as in Phil. So Phillionaire 1911 or Phillionaire on Twitter. So those are the two places you'll find me.
And they can check you out on Clubhouse too, because you've been
Clubhouse,
you've been popping over there. So check out that Sunday brunch.
Yeah, absolutely. Sunday brunch. Yeah, that's a good time.
All right, cool. Thanks again, Phil. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Talk soon.
Peace.